Breaking news! The Dolphins might be smiling on the outside with a few players finally returning to the field, but behind the scenes, there's a storm brewing that could derail the entire season before it even starts. Injuries, depth concerns, and questionable front office decisions are all colliding at the worst possible time, and what I've been hearing paints a picture that every Dolphins fan needs to pay attention to. You want to talk about a team chasing a Super Bowl? Well, that dream only stays alive if certain cracks don't turn into massive holes. And here's the twist. Some of those cracks aren't just from bad luck. They're from mistakes that could have been avoided months ago. The tension in Miami is real, and the pressure is mounting. Mike McDaniel has the X's and O's to get us there, but can he do it with the cards Chris Grier has dealt him? Grier should have been gone already. That's not a hot take. That's reality. And yet here we are, staring at roster risks that could explode the moment one or two key players go down. Before we get into the details of who's back, who's not, and what's keeping me up at night about this roster, smash that like button if you've been riding with the aqua and orange through the highs and lows, and comment below. Go Dolphins! My heart bleeds aqua and orange, because trust me, once you hear the full picture, you'll see why this could be the most pivotal 2 weeks of the Dolphins season before the regular season even kicks off. Now, straight to the point, we finally got some positive injury news, which feels like a rare miracle this preseason. Training camp has been a minefield of injuries, guys dropping left and right, but now 2 members of the secondary are back on the field. Cam Smith, last year's second-round pick, is back at practice after missing 6 sessions with a soft tissue injury. The exact spot hasn't been disclosed, but given his hamstring issues last season, fans are understandably worried. His situation is urgent. He's currently buried on the depth chart, even behind guys like Ethan Bonner, Jack Jones, and Jason Marshall Jr. without guaranteed money on his contract. If he doesn't make a big impression in these joint practices against the Lions and the preseason game Saturday, Miami could cut him and free up $1.4 million in cap space. This is as make or break as it gets. Dante Trader Jr., the rookie safety from Maryland, is also back. He looked promising early in camp before a lower body injury sidelined him. With Aston Davis expected to miss significant time and likely start the season on IR, Trader now has a real shot at locking down the 4th safety spot behind Minkah Fitzpatrick, Efita Melifonwu, and Elijah Campbell. Speaking of Campbell, his lower body injury is considered day-to-day, and while he might participate in joint practices, it wouldn't be shocking if McDaniel holds him out of Saturday's game to keep him fresh for Week 1. Miami could be leaning heavily on 3 safety looks this year, so Campbell's health is critical. The more troubling news is on offense. Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, and Jaylon Phillips all missed the last preseason game and might sit again this week. Waddle's rib injury came from a hard hit in the joint practice with Chicago, and frankly, there's no need to rush him or Tyreek back. Phillips is still working his way to full speed after an ACL tear, and risking them in meaningless preseason snaps makes 0 sense. But the real red flag? The offensive line depth is a disaster waiting to happen. Liam Eichenberg and Andrew Meyer, 2 of the top interior depth pieces, aren't coming back anytime soon. Eichenberg is still on PUP, and Meyer, who had been impressing in camp, now looks doubtful for Week 1. Behind the starting 5, the drop-off is catastrophic. Brunskill is average, Borum is awful, Kean Smith struggles badly, and Jackson Carman might be one of the worst linemen to ever step on an NFL field. If one starter goes down, this line could collapse overnight, and Grier did nothing substantial to fix this glaring problem. And then there's Darren Waller. After McDaniel hinted he could come off PUP this week, the team has now decided to wait, saying it wouldn't be fair to throw him into joint practices without ramping up. But we're creeping closer to the regular season, and the man hasn't played since retiring last year. He's listed as the TE1 on the unofficial depth chart, but without chemistry reps with Tua and with his injury history, this situation could become a major liability. The alternatives? Pharaoh Brown and Julian Hill, who looked rough in preseason action. That's not exactly confidence-inspiring for a playoff push. And this is where things get even more concerning. Because while we're all holding our breath for the health of Hill, Waddle, and Phillips, the reality is that the roster holes created by these injuries, and the lack of depth in critical spots, aren't something you can just patch up mid-season without paying a heavy price. Once we hit Week 1, every roster move comes at the cost of losing someone else, and that's where Chris Grier's offseason missteps are going to haunt this team. Take the offensive line situation. Sure, the starters are solid when they're all healthy, but that's a dream scenario. This is the NFL. Players get hurt. Even just a high ankle sprain to one starter, and suddenly you've got Kean Smith trying to protect Tua's blind side or Jackson Carman attempting to hold his ground against an elite pass rusher. We saw what happened in preseason when the backups played. They were dead last in run blocking and third worst in pass protection according to PFF. And that was against second and third string defenders, not the Micah Parsons or Chris Jones types you'll see in real games. That's terrifying. And then there's Cam Smith's situation. Think about it. You invest a second-round pick in a guy, and a year later he's fighting for his NFL life just to make the 53-man roster. That's not just bad luck with injuries, that's a developmental failure. If he can't show up in these Lions practices and the preseason game, he could be out the door. And with no guaranteed money on his deal, Grier wouldn't blink to cut him loose. That's how quickly the draft building blocks can turn into wasted picks. The Darren Waller situation might actually be the quiet storm here. This is supposed to be a high-powered offense, and Waller was brought in as a mismatch weapon for Tua. But if he's not ready, if he hasn't built any timing with the quarterback, you're asking a lot for him to step in week 1 and start producing. Tight end might not be the centerpiece of McDaniel's offense, but it still matters when defenses can key in on Hill and Waddle. And right now, if Waller's not in form, the safety blanket becomes Pharaoh Brown, Julian Hill. That's a steep drop-off from what you thought you were getting. On the defensive side, at least there's some relief with Trader Jr. and Campbell getting closer to full participation. But again, all it takes is one setback, and suddenly you're shuffling depth pieces in a secondary that's going to face some of the league's best passing attacks. The good news is that guys like Ethan Bonner and Patrick McMorris have flashed in camp, but you can't lean on preseason standouts to carry you in December and January. That's when experience and proven talent win games. This is why these next 2 weeks are so critical, not just for the bubble players trying to make the team, but for McDaniel and his staff to really decide if they can trust the depth they have or if they need to push Grier to make a move before the season opener. Because right now, it feels like Miami is 1 or 2 key injuries away from having their season aspirations completely derailed. And here's the thing, this isn't just about week 1, it's about how sustainable this roster really is over the course of a 17-game season and hopefully a playoff run. The way things are shaping up, Miami's margin for error looks razor thin. Sure, the starters at multiple positions are among the best in the league, but that means nothing if the guys behind them can't hold the line when injuries inevitably strike. Look at the offensive line again. I can't stress this enough. This is the single biggest risk to the Dolphins season. You've got a quarterback in Tua who, as much as we all believe in his talent, has had a history of concussions and injuries. He needs a fortress in front of him, not a revolving door. And right now, if one starting lineman goes down, you're looking at a massive downgrade. That's not just a concern. That's a potential season killer. Grier had all offseason to bring in reliable depth, veterans who could at least be league average, but instead, we're stuck with a backup group that can't even dominate preseason matchups. That's just bad roster building. Then there's Darren Waller. This is a move that screamed high risk, high reward from the start. He hasn't played since retiring last year. He's had multiple injury issues in the past, and we're now weeks away from the opener without him taking a real snap with Tua. Chemistry in the passing game isn't built in a film room, it's built on the field. Every day he's out, that clock gets louder. If he's not ready, defenses will simply double Hill and bracket Waddle, daring the Dolphins to beat them with Brown or Hill at tight end. That's a dangerous gamble for an offense with championship aspirations. Defensively, the situation is a bit brighter, but the reality is we're relying on guys like Cam Smith, who hasn't had enough consistent practice time to develop, and a rookie in Dante Trader Jr. who's just coming off injury. Those are unknown quantities heading into a season where we'll be facing offenses like Buffalo, Kansas City, and Dallas. And if you think those quarterbacks won't test the depth in the secondary, think again. This is why the next 2 weeks matter so much. Not just for evaluating bubble players, but for sending a message to the front office. If these weaknesses are as glaring in joint practices and the final preseason games as they appear now, it's